Our government banned 1,500 models of assault-style weapons, including the Ruger Mini-14 used at Polytechnique and the AR-15. So today, we're moving forward. As we see gun violence continue to rise, it is our duty to keep taking action. We're introducing legislation to implement a national freeze on handgun ownership. It will no longer be possible to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns.
The federal Liberal government is extending its amnesty on assault-style firearms until October 2023. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced in May 2020 he was banning more than 1,500 models of firearms, including the AR-15. He also announced owners of these guns would have a 2-year amnesty period to come into compliance with the prohibition. Keep watching for complete details. Latest announcements. The Liberal government revealed recently that the order was set to expire in April would be extended until October 2023. It says doing so gives officials more time to implement a mandatory buyback program for the firearms. A prominent gun control advocacy group said it hopes this is the first and last extension of its kind and wants to see the buyback program, promised by the Liberals during the 2019 federal election, to be introduced as quickly as possible. It is impo ban on assault weapons, reads a statement from Poly se souvient, which includes former students and graduates of École Polytechnique, where a gunman shot and took the lives of 14 women in 1989. Further legislation is required to ban models that were not covered by the regulations and to prevent manufacturers from introducing new models into the market. May 2022. National freeze on sales. Canada's government introduced legislation back in May to implement a national freeze on the sale and purchase of handguns as part of a gun control package that would also to limit mag capacities and ban some toys that look like guns. The legislation, which resurrected some measures that were shelved a year ago amid a national election, came just a week after a gunman shot down 19 children and 2 teachers in their classroom in Uvalde, Texas. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau told reporters the new measures were needed as gun violence was increasing. "We need only look south of the border to know that if we do not take action firmly and rapidly, it gets worse and worse and gets more difficult to counter," he said. The handgun freeze was said to contain exceptions, including for elite sport shooters, Olympic athletes, and security guards. Canadians who already owned handguns would be allowed to keep them. Authorities did not expect a run on handguns in anticipation of the freeze, in part because they are so heavily regulated already. Canada has stronger gun legislation than the U.S., but while its gun homicide rate is less than 1/5 the U.S. rate, it is higher than that of other rich countries and has been rising. In 2020, it was 5 times Australia's rate. The rate in each of 2020 and 2017 was the country's highest since at least 1997, according to Statistics Canada. Canada banned the sale and use of some 1,500 models of assault weapons, like the AR-15 rifle, 2 years ago in the wake of a mass shooting in Portapique, Nova Scotia, a move some firearms owners say they are contesting in court. While the Liberals had a minority of seats in Parliament, the legislation could pass with the support of the left-leaning New Democratic Party. The planned legislation would prevent anyone subject to a protection order or who has engaged in domestic violence or stalking from obtaining or keeping a firearms license. It would also require long gun mags to be permanently altered so they can never hold more than 5 rounds and would ban the sale and transfer of large capacity mags. The new laws would also ban some toys that look like real guns, such as airsoft rifles. You cannot distinguish between what's a replica firearm and what's a real firearm, particularly when these incidences involving replica firearms occur often in very dynamic, quickly evolving circumstances. He said authorities were not using the tools they already had to tackle gun violence, such as calling people listed as references on gun license applications. Bill C-21. The new legislation, Bill C-21, was a potential game-changer, but it had been a long time coming. Calls for a ban on semi-auto military-style weapons dates back to the Montreal Massacre more than 30 years ago. Anne McClellan, then the Liberal Justice Minister, promised a ban on the gun used in that tragedy, the Ruger Mini-14, as well as the notorious AR-15, but it never came to pass. In 2005, when Liberal leader Paul Martin promised a ban on handguns as he ran for re-election, there were about 350,000 restricted weapons in Canada. Now, there are more than 1 million. The proliferation of handguns is partly the result of the relaxation of laws, but even more the lack of implementation of the laws that exist. While some resist, others rejoice about the new legislation, Yet some more are asking why it took so long. The simple answer? The gun lobby. But perhaps there's more to it than that. Decades-old debate. The gun control debate has been waged for decades, but we have reached a tipping point. Canadians shouldn't feel smug watching the carnage unfold in the U.S., where there are almost as many guns as people, and more than a third of the firearms are handguns. Countries in the European Union, Australia, New Zealand, and even Switzerland have strengthened their laws in recent years. Canada, meantime, is ranked 4th among countries in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development in the rate of gun slayings. The Supreme Court of Canada has said unequivocally that there is no American-style right to own guns in Canada, but many politicians echo gun lobby rhetoric about gun owner rights. Many who have researched gun violence and advocated for stricter laws for more than 30 years argue that the problem has not actually been resistance by the gun lobby and its political allies. There are fewer than 300,000 legal handgun owners in Canada, and even fewer collectors of semi-auto military-style weapons. The gun lobby in Canada is remarkably well-resourced and has in the past hijacked the public agenda. But for decades, most Canadians have supported a ban on semi-auto military-style weapons and handguns. August 2022. Proposed pricing for mandatory gun buyback program. Now, in August 2022, the Canadian government has unveiled how much it's proposing to pay for banned firearms under a mandatory buyback program, part of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's pledge to toughen gun laws amid a rash of recent shootings in the U.S., including Buffalo. However, the proposed new law has already drawn criticism from legal gun owners who say it doesn't target the real problem. The compensation amounts vary from just over $1,300 for AR platform firearms to more than $6,000 for the SG-550 of 551 carbine. Ottawa will also consult with firearms owners, businesses, and the gun industry on the proposed compensation. The consultations will end on August 28th. It was only 2 months ago that Trudeau outlined some of his proposed new gun control bill that included a national handgun freeze. What this means is that it will no longer be possible to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns anywhere in Canada, Trudeau announced. It's a pledge that Trudeau made after the last election to tackle gun violence in Canada. He said the proposed legislation includes some of the strongest measures in Canadian history to keep guns out of communities. We're also fighting gun smuggling and trafficking by increasing maximum criminal penalties and providing more tools for law enforcement to investigate firearm crimes, he said. We need less gun violence. We cannot let the guns debate become so polarized that nothing gets done. When the handgun freeze was announced, sporting goods and gun shops were swamped with customers who wanted to buy handguns legally. It's a whole industry that we're afraid is going to go away, said Kevin McCurry, who runs a shop in Campbell River, British Columbia. And it's sad because I think the gun laws in Canada were pretty good, and we see this as an attack on legal gun owners. Police in Toronto say last year, 86% of all crime handguns in the city were smuggled in from the U.S., leading to more than 20% increase in shootings that resulted in bodily harm. Canadian authorities are still grappling to control the high number of illegal weapons that are coming from the U.S., but the Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino insists the legislation does not target legal gun owners and will address issues such as guns flowing across the border. And Mendicino said the recent mandatory buyback offer applies to more than 1,500 models of assault-style weapons that were banned more than 2 years ago. That's all for this video, folks. See you another time.